If we want everything to stay as it is, everything must change. Tancredi and the Leopard, the aesthetics of silence. Paris is not a city. Paris is an argument. Léa Fontaine's apartment is on the 3rd floor of a Haussmann building on Rue de Fleurus, a few steps from the Jardin du Luxembourg. Honey-colored exposed beams, parquet floors that creak like a confession, books everywhere, stacked according to a logic that is neither alphabetical nor thematic, emotional, seasonal, personal as a scar. Léa is 22. She has the kind of beauty that doesn't ask permission, not the beauty of girls who know they're beautiful, that tired kind, forever check-in mirrors for confirmation. Hers is different. It is the beauty of the l'inconnu de la scène, the faint smile of a woman no one knows anything about, that plaster cast that somehow became the face of European beauty without her knowledge, without her asking anything from anyone. A beauty that exists independently of the gaze that observes it. The rarest kind, the most unsettling kind. This morning she is stretched across the sofa in an ivory silk robe, legs crossed, reading a book about Lucchino Visconti. She holds it open with one hand, as though it weighs less than the others. Maybe some books are read underwater and set down lighter than when they were picked up. Her phone vibrates on the coffee table. The screen lights up, one name, Chloé. Léa smiles. Chez Marcel, the bistro everyone in the neighborhood simply calls Chloé's place because Chloé Beaumont-Ward has lunch there every Thursday for 40 years, and certain rituals eventually take possession of places the way ivy claims old walls. Chloé is 80. She arrives 5 minutes late, the exact delay of someone who respects others enough not to keep them waiting too long, but respects herself enough never to arrive first. Pearl gray wool suit, amber brooch pinned to the jacket, white hair twisted into a flawless torsade. She carries herself like a woman who drank champagne with the Beatles in a Chelsea flat in 1965 and never felt the need to forget it. Her accent is geological layering. 50 years of Paris sedimented over the English she was born with, resurfacing in moments of judgment, emotion, cutting impatience. She says darling as casually as other people say alors. When she is truly irritated, she returns to pure English. Dry, definitive, absolute. They sit. Chloé never opens the menu. She orders for both of them. Sole meunière, very cold muscadet sur lit, real bread. The fish arrives golden, fragrant with browned butter and lemon. The sort of dish that does not need to justify itself. They talk, the way they always do, about everything, without hierarchy, without that sugary awkwardness that sometimes slips between generations. Work. Léa is writing her thesis on Françoise Sagan. Chloé says Françoise was brilliant at seeming frivolous so no one would notice how much she understood. A useful trick, darling. You should learn it, love. Léa left someone in February. Chloé nods as though she already knew. February men never last, she says. They mistake winter sadness for depth. Spring deflates the whole thing. Sex, fashion, death. The European version of success. Chloé sat front row at Carden in '66. She watched friends die, lovers disappear, an entire generation convinced it had invented freedom. You don't invent freedom, she says, while cutting into the soul with the surgical precision of someone who has lunched properly for decades. You inherit it and ruin it, like everything else. At some point, Jean-Paul Sartre enters the conversation. Naturally, he always does in Paris, in the 6th, in a bistro that still knows how to serve meunière correctly. Léa says she has been rereading Being and Nothingness and that the section on mauvaise foi feels more relevant than ever. Chloé listens, drinks, then says Sartre understood everything about human existence and nothing about women. He was right about everything and wrong about Simone. Silence. May's sunlight shifts across the tiled floor. Eventually, Chloé mentions Armand Morel, casually, with the same carelessness she uses whenever something matters deeply to her. Professor Morel, she says, admired your father enormously, perhaps too enormously. The sort of admiration that turns into dependency and then resentment. Edouard was working on something that would have dismantled 20 years of his thinking. In academia, Chloé says, as she lifts her wine glass again, people kill for far less. She does not mean it literally, or perhaps she does. She does not set the glass down. She places it there. With the deliberate care that precedes, the moments that alter the direction of a day, a year, a life. She looks at Léa and says, in the same voice she used moments earlier to discuss Saigon, that she is in danger, that she has discovered something terrible about Edouard's disappearance. Edouard Fontaine, Léa's father, Chloé's son, gone 3 years ago without a trace, no body, no note, no explanation, just a Tuesday morning when he failed to arrive at his office at the Sorbonne and never returned. In Paris, absence has the same status as art. People do not always understand it, but they cannot ignore it. Léa stops breathing. Chloé says the envelope she is handing her contains a matchstick from Café Le Condé on Rue de l'Odillon. That she must go there tonight. Then she picks up her fork again, finishes the sole, as though she had merely commented on the quality of the butter. La réalité, she says without looking up from the plate, is trying to come back through the window, darling. You've kept the shutters closed long enough. Léa stares at the envelope. White, inside a single matchstick bearing the Le Condé logo. Nothing else. A matchstick, a promise, a danger, and Chloé sipping her muscadet with the expression of someone who has lived too long to be surprised by anything anymore. Café Le Condé is the kind of place Patrick Modiano might have invented if it did not already exist. Fogged mirrors, burgundy velvet banquettes worn pale at the corners, globe lamps casting amber light, that exact shade that turns every conversation into something faintly clandestine. Neutral territory, a place where time does not pass, it thickens. Léa enters. The garçon behind the counter looks at her, not the way one looks at a new customer, the way one looks at someone expected. The cafe is nearly empty, an old man reading Le Monde in the back. A couple sharing a carafe of red wine without speaking, and at the corner table, beneath a badly framed Baudelaire print, whose terrible taste somehow circles back into perfection, sits Roland Camus. Roland is 56 years old. Or rather he was, because Roland Camus is dead. He sits with his back against the wall, chin slightly lowered, looking like a man who drifted to sleep over his Calvados. If not for the color of his skin, that gray no lighting can imitate, he might almost seem asleep. In his hand, he clutches Bonjour Tristesse, the first Juilliard edition, 1954. White cover, title in a shade, somewhere between coral and blood. One page is folded, not carelessly. The way someone marks a page at bedtime, intentionally, the precise gesture of someone wanting another person to find something. The marked page is the one where Cécile, after orchestrating Anne's downfall with the absolute coldness of someone incapable of distinguishing between a problem and a person, notes that she does not feel guilty, only very tired. Someone chose that page. Someone knows the person who finds Roland will understand. But there is a problem. The room, a small private salon Le Condé rents out for discreet meetings, was locked from the inside, bolt secured, no accessible windows. The garçon had to force the door open after Léa raised the alarm. Roland was supposed to meet her at exactly 8 and had not emerged, locked from within. Roland Camus, philosophy professor at the Sorbonne, former colleague and intimate friend of Edouard Fontaine, is dead inside an impossible room. How? And more importantly, who wanted him to be found? Inspector Antoine Santamaria wears his name like an elegant burden. Southern origins, Parisian education, that Mediterranean melancholy, the left bank, always transformed into something presentable. 50 years old. A weathered brown tweed jacket, worn with dignity. A battered copy of Gli Indifferenti in his pocket. Quoted whenever he feels the situation deserves it, which is almost always. He studies the scene with the eyes of a man who has seen enough never to be surprised again, but not enough to stop finding it interesting. He asks Léa her name, how she arrived here, what she knew. She answers carefully. The name, the envelope, the matchstick. She says nothing about Chloé. Not yet. Somewhere inside her leaves the ancient instinct women develop around danger. Keep the people you love outside the room until you know exactly what the room contains. Santamaria takes notes, then murmurs almost to himself that locked room murders are always acts of vanity. Only amateurs and geniuses attempt them. Professionals are too lazy. In the corner of the cafe, two figures wait. Isabelle Mercier, 35, research assistant in the Sorbonne philosophy department, Roland's department, Edouard's department, black hair framing her face like a signature. She dresses exclusively in dark colors, with the aesthetic precision of someone who transformed mourning into a lifestyle, without ever experiencing anything tragic enough to justify it. Her hands rest motionless in her lap, too motionless. While everyone else watches the door, the body, the arriving police officers, Isabelle watches Morel. One glance, brief, almost invisible, which he receives without returning. The grammar of accomplice, saying nothing because there is nothing left to say. Everything has already been said. Beside her sits Professor Armand Morel, 64 years old, 11 books, member of the Academy. The kind of intellect that never stops moving and eventually stops distinguishing between thought and whatever thought can justify. Léa knows him by reputation. Her father's mentor, the man with whom Edouard built 20 years of shared work. And now she remembers he is also the man Chloé spoke about over lunch. With that suspicious casualness, people kill for far less. He looks at Roland's body with an expression that is neither grief nor shock. It is resignation, as though he were watching the final line of a proof he had already seen written on the board. Two suspects, a locked room, a missing father, and Léa standing at the center of it all without yet understanding what she truly knows. Early in the morning, the Sorbonne smelled of printed paper and cool ambition. The corridors where Jean-Paul Sartre and Simone de Beauvoir fought, reconciled, and fought again still preserved that specific quality of academic air. Dense, slightly stale, heavy, with ideas trying to outlive their authors. Léa is here with Chloé. Chloé walks into the philosophy department as though entering her favorite atelier. Midnight blue, cashmere coat. She studies the symposium posters on the walls with the air of someone who could correct their central thesis. She has brought the letters. Léa did not know about the letters. Roland had written to Chloé. Handwritten letters, a deliberate anachronism from a man who used erudition as camouflage during the 3 silent years following Edouard's disappearance. He alluded to something that had happened inside the department, something involving Isabelle, Edouard, Morel, a triangle, but not a romantic one. Or not merely romantic. Edouard and Isabelle had been lovers. Léa knew this vaguely, in the indistinct way children know things about their parents, as silhouettes rather than details. She knew even less about the ending, abrupt, unilateral, initiated by Edouard, and she knew nothing about what that ending had deposited inside Isabelle, nor how Morel had recognized it for what it was, useful material. There's a scene in Contempt, Bardot, Capri sunlight slicing through white terraces like a blade, where contempt is never declared or explained. It exists only in the space that is open between two people who touched each other the day before. That space, that precise distance. Morel had seen it in Isabelle after the breakup with Edouard and understood immediately what it was. Not pain, contempt. The cold version, the kind that neither burns out nor forgives. He cultivated it, fed it, directed it, with the patience of a gardener who knows certain plants grow only in darkness. The motive was simple, as the most expensive motives always are. It was what Chloé hinted at during lunch with that sentence, tossed like a stone into water. People kill for far less. Edouard was preparing to publish research that would refute, not criticize, refute, 20 years of Morel's work. The foundation of his most celebrated theory, dismantled from within by someone who understood the architecture because he had helped build it. In academia, the difference between criticism and refutation is the same as the difference between a slap and a sentence. Edouard had to be stopped. And Isabelle, her contempt sharpened into an instrument, became the perfect weapon. Anonymous letters to the dean, manipulated review committees, research quietly stolen away, the kind of violence that leaves no bruises, because it operates through the very systems supposedly designed to protect. At some point, Edouard understood that continuing meant destroying himself, so he disappeared. Roland knew. Roland was about to speak. That is why he was at Le Condé. That is why he died. Fourth floor, the top level, windows overlooking the rooftops of Paris, books from floor to ceiling, real books, not decorative ones. A dark wooden desk crowded with papers arranged with the kind of precision that is the opposite of disorder. Every stack obeying a logic belonging only to Morel. Léa knocks, enters. Santa Maria is already there. Morel sits behind the desk. He does not rise. He looks at Léa with that same expression. The resignation of a man who has known the ending long enough to stop resisting it. Santa Maria has the autopsy results, induced cardiac arrest, a compound difficult to detect through standard analysis. The specific toxicology protocol was ordered because, Santa Maria says, while quoting Alberto Moravia without preamble, the indifferent always leave a signature, even when they believe they have not. The locked room mechanism was elementary in its brutality, and therefore nearly invisible. A strand of almost invisible nylon thread, the kind used in art installations, connected the door bolt to a tiny screw hidden beneath the table. Morel administered the compound to Roland before leaving the private room. A handshake, a drink, one of those ordinary gestures no one ever registers. Then he stepped outside, closed the door without engaging the bolt, threaded the nylon through the frame from the exterior, and pulled. The bolt slid into place on its own. The room appeared locked from the inside. By the time Léa raised the alarm, he was already seated among the cafe patrons, wearing the expression of a startled witness. The thread had been removed during the 10 minutes of confusion before the police arrived. But the screw hole remained. Tiny, precise, exactly the size of a 3mm screw. Santa Maria found it immediately. He simply said nothing until now. Morel listens. He does not deny anything. He says Roland was about to destroy everything. 20 years. A body of thought built through sacrifices. Men like Roland could never understand. He says what he did was an act of aesthetic cleansing. The phrase is his. Aesthetic cleansing. As though Roland were merely a redundant sentence removed from a manuscript. As though murder were an editorial process. Léa stares at him and feels something she cannot quite name yet. And not fear, not hatred. Something closer to nausea. The nausea of clarity. Because Morel is not detached from reality. He is perfectly lucid. He is simply a man who carried a thought so far he lost sight of the elementary fact that human beings are not arguments. They cannot be erased. "Where is my father?" Léa asks. Morel looks at her. For the first time, something cracks in his face. "Alive," he says. Nothing more. Edouard Fontaine returns, not suddenly. Nothing in real life ever truly happens suddenly. He returns the way lost things return. First as a voice on the telephone, then as footsteps in the hallway, then as weight settling into a chair and changing the distribution of air inside a room. 3 years beneath another identity. Roland's letters to Chloé had been the agreed signal. When someone finally read them, when someone finally understood enough, he would come back. It is not heroic entrance. It is an exhausted man sitting at a kitchen table, drinking coffee while his daughter sits across from him trying to decide what exactly she feels. Chloé is there, naturally. She watches her son with that instinctive irony she uses to defend herself against anything that genuinely moves her. Then she says, in the impeccable franglais of a woman who crossed half a century of Paris without surrendering a gram of herself, that she always knew he would return. Because the Fontaines, darling, are terrible at tragedy. They don't have the physique du rôle, far too bourgeois for genuine disaster. Edouard laughs, perhaps for the first time in 3 years. The kind of laughter that only arrives after silence has lasted long enough. Léa looks at her grandmother, looks at her father, looks around the room. The books, the parquet floor, the linden tree in the courtyard that at night becomes only a shadow against the Paris sky. She thinks about Tancredi, about that line clinging to the opening quotation, the way ivy clings to stone. If we want everything to stay as it is, everything must change. Not a philosophy of betrayal, a philosophy of survival. Change is not the opposite of continuity. It is continuity, only instrument. The truth, Léa realizes, is never singular. It is a choice, the perspective one decides to adopt, the detail one decides to focus on, the light in which one chooses to reveal the scene. Jean-Paul Sartre called it freedom. François Sagan called it sadness. Lucchino Visconti called it beauty. Perhaps they are the same thing, perhaps only the word changes depending on how much one is willing to pay for it. Chloé rises, takes her coat, adjusts the amber brooch in the entryway mirror. She does it with the care of someone who understands that every gesture, even the smallest one, even the unseen ones, is also an aesthetic. Do you know the real difference, she says while opening the door, between those who survive and those who do not? She waits. As always, taste, she says. Everything else is circumstance. The door closes. The linden tree in the courtyard. May light dissolving into evening light without asking permission. Léa and Edouard seated at the kitchen table, with coffee cooling between them like a living thing, and outside Paris continuing to be an argument.
Le grand salon s'endort sous la poussière d'or. Nos souvenirs flottent sans aucun remords pour que le tableau reste le même.